So,
Yeah.
we were going to talk this.
Words of wisdom, is that it?
Your
My
thoughts
long
on
life?
life. Yes.
Pardon?
Your thoughts on life.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts on life are that I've had a fantastic life. You know, I really had no major traumas or anything. You know, obviously I've lost my sister and my mother and father and that, but that is life. You know, that is it. Anyway, yeah, I'll give you some of my thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
might be controversial, but
That's
politics.
okay, but they're your thoughts. Yes.
Yeah. On politics.
Yes.
I grew up in a very successful town, Paisley. It was very prosperous, and that was mainly due to the fact that it was the home of the Scottish Liberals. And these were large families, wealthy families who had the two big mills in the town. And my grandmother, for example, my maternal grandmother, worked in the mills and was very proud of the fact that she went to school because they provided school half day. You worked half day and the school was half day. Now, that was when people didn't have schooling, son. And also, if you spent 10 years with them, you then got shares. And if you were ill, you went to a recovering hospital provided by them. So, and they poured a lot into the Liberals believed in, you know, making it, spreading the wealth a bit. And because of that, it was a very, very wealthy town, son. What we had was unequaled, you know, in transport system, buses, you know, amenities. We had seven cinemas. We had 5 railway stations. You know, there was something coming along. Though the vast population didn't have cars, they had a fantastic network of rail and electric trams and buses that we don't have today. And the other thing that we had as well in the old days, as opposed to the current time, we had law and order. You know, people didn't move around. So the local bobby knew everyone on his beat. And if you were a naughty lad, he'd give you a cuff in the ear or something like that and say, you know, you don't want me to tell your dad or something like that. There wasn't, you know, there wasn't a great deal of crime, son. And jails were pretty bad. You know, we had a big jail in Paisley, and if anyone behaved badly, they went in there. And they didn't like it. It wasn't nice. So, you know, I grew up in a very prosperous town on the edge of it by the countryside, the best of everything. I had the amenities of the town, which I could get into in 3 minutes or something by a bus, which came along every couple of minutes.
Yes.
Or I could have the country, and we went out in the country. And because there weren't so many vehicles around, it wasn't dangerous. You know, we could go, and it was quite safe. So we wandered all over the country. We did it as boys and girls. Anyway, that's the thing. You know, that things have changed. The police are now in a position where if you're burgled, they will acknowledge it by phone from somewhere, but a central place where when they tell you Felpham, they don't know where that is, and then you have to spell out it's PO22 and repeat that a couple of times, and you get tired. When we had the boat stolen, the engine stolen off our yacht in Chichester Harbour, it was locked in the harbour board, the harbour place, lock and key. They went in and just, you know, with big saws or something, chipped off all the chains and went off with about 20 lovely engines. Ours was new. It was only new, you know, and it was about 900 quid or 1,000. And we discovered it on Sunday about 6 o'clock. We've made a phone call, and it had to go to a central place. And she said, Chichester, repeat that again. Chichester, where's that? That's in Sussex. And you go through that. It went on so long, this conversation, reporting this thing, that Adrian's phone ran out of battery. So we went to Chichester police station, and they couldn't deal with it. They say, oh no, you've got to do it online. And it was about 11 o'clock at night that Adrian eventually got it registered, that we had it, you know, there was a problem. We'd had this break-in and so on. The next day, the Harbour authorities, of course, were informed. Nothing ever happened, and the case was written off as closed on Wednesday. They just haven't got the manpower. It's, you know, unless you're being attacked, they won't come. On the other hand, when your mum was ill and got out of the back gate and got out, and we were all looking for her when she had dementia, she crossed the main road and went up Downview Road and was out by her old house. I phoned up the police after we couldn't see her anywhere. The police sent 3 cars out immediately from Bognor and came and had a photograph of it. And of course, they were successful. But a lot of the time, they just haven't got the personnel now. You know, such as the cost of everything. Labour is so expensive, and so is everything else that goes with it. Yeah, I had a really good... and my politics are shaped by that, because I'm really a middle of the road. I'm neither extreme one way or the other. But my observations are this about Labour, that they're very good at redistributing wealth, but they're hopeless at creating wealth. They don't understand how business world works. Every Labour government that's got in has ended up being shut out because inflation's rising and think we're getting poorer. They don't really understand business, but they know how to redistribute the wealth, okay, but often punitive to people who are going to take a risk and, you know, to make some money, which you need to encourage. The Conservatives, on the other hand, are still to this day a party run by the elite. That's from the public school or moneyed classes, are mainly Conservative. And the people running the business, running the Conservative Party, are mainly from that. There may be supporters from other, but very few of them are just ordinary people. And they don't really understand how ordinary people live, and you know how they live and exist. So that's a pity. That's why I'm a Liberal at heart. I don't vote Liberal. I'll vote tactically one way or the other to get the best result. On the monarchy, I think it's a shame. It's costing us 67 million at present per annum, the monarchy.
Actually, can I stop there, Dad? The light's gone, so you've only got light on half your face now. Is it getting dark outside, or?
It must be. Then I'll put the light on.
Yeah. If that's better.
How's that?
That's better, yes.
About the monarchy,
yes.
I believe it's obsolete and unnecessary. And I think the cost of 67 million, it went up 40% last year, is just, you know, it could be better spent on care services or something like that. I just think the days of kings and queens and all the rest of it, I think they do They do it to the best of their ability, but it's a stupid thing. And we shouldn't have honours lists as well. Should abolish them. And the government, I believe that it's long overdue. We should replace the House of Lords. You know, it should be proportional representation there. And education, I think, should be free. I don't think you should pay for it. I think that you should probably have an interview to see that you're properly motivated to take the course, because people seem to go on to courses and then go on and take another course, another course, another course, and then don't up paying. At the present moment, 50% of the grants aren't paid back. So that's a sign that systems aren't working if 50% isn't being paid back.
Are you talking about degree courses?
I'm talking about degree, yeah, or if I don't know if further education is covered as well.
Yeah.
But it should be really for a profession and subject to an interview that they're properly motivated and that the money's going to be well spent, because you do get professional students. I think that's an abuse. In the NHS, I really get quite annoyed about the fact that they ask nurses and doctors to work 12-hour shifts. I can't think of such a nonsensical thing to do. Who is most important in this life? Trying to keep people alive and and not have pain, and you have them limited to 12 hours when loads of experiment has shown that people can keep it up. Normal person can keep up activity to about 8 to 9 hours, and after that it really sharply goes down. People's performance goes very badly down. And the fact that consultants now say, oh, we did it and that's the way we've always done it, that just bloody makes me annoyed. And, you know, I think that's no answer at all. And, you know, we should change it. The system needs to change. I was a magistrate for 22 years. And I still think that the system is stupid, in that magistrates and judges have to apply from a menu, you know, of you know, worst case to best to least case in any given crime, that they have to apply what is a reasonable sentence, which is then cut by half by the prison governors, and it happens all the time. And that's another nonsense that really annoys me. You know, the sentence should be the sentence, and if you behave badly, you should get penalties, and that's it. You know, you work the other way around. You don't. You know, to people who've abused the system, you know, costing even when they're in prison loads of money, they should not be given the benefits of it. They should be given a sentence which everybody thinks is reasonable, and then if they behave badly, you add to it or give punishments or no, you know, private time or radio or television time or something to get penalties. That's the sort of main things I think that you know, I've come to think about during my life. The only thing I really need to explain to all of you is how it came to be that I became a humanist at the age of 90, which is perplexing. And you say, why did he go suddenly off his head or something like that? And it isn't really the case. If I can explain that, when I was young, it was a Protestant church, and it was the Sabbath was a quiet day when there was no sport. You weren't supposed to whistle or do anything like that. You were supposed to sort of sing hymns or, you know, that it was, and you you didn't move around other than walking, because that would have meant someone having to work. So it was quite strict, and it was, yeah. I think I told you, didn't I, that on the Sunday, as early as I can remember, we got up and walked about 2 miles to Paisley Baths in the morning to have our once weekly shower and swim, because we didn't have one. And then we went parents went to the church, and the children went to the morning meeting. And then in the afternoons, we would go to see our grandparents, and that was what most people did.
What sort of church was that? When you say the morning meeting,
Church of Scotland, Protestant church,
right?
Scottish Protestant, the Church of Scotland. And from the age of 8, I was in the choir, of course, at Paisley, and just the year before I went to sea. So I came up in a loving Christian family, and I didn't question anything. I just went along believing it all. And then I went to sea, and in November 1946, I ended up in Calcutta on a ship, the Baron Renfrew, with a full cargo of salt, which is food, of course, from UNRWA, United Nations Relief Association, for Calcutta. And we ended up the Hooghly, which is the branch of the Ganges, in number 1 buoy up at Howrah Bridge. And we were tied to two huge buoys which had big anchors on them, because up that river comes a race like the Severn. It comes about 8 feet high. It's suddenly a wall that comes over, and you have to have the engines on standby the whole time you're there to, work a post to keep yourself in position. But the problem was it was the separation of the Indian continent into Muslim and Hindu, and they were killing each other, and I saw lots of them have pictures of killing of women, children and men, and that had a profound effect on me. The vultures couldn't fly. The bodies were floating around, all blown up with gas in the fountain near the post office, and there was children dying. It made a profound effect on me, and the sort of things that stuck in my head, that as a child I'd thought, and it was very comforting to sing, "Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so." And so it was a childlike faith, blind faith, and it was very comforting. As long as I do that, I'm going to be all right. And then I thought, there's something wrong here, because these kids haven't done anything wrong. But then Christianity also says you're born with original sin. And I got all mixed up with this. I thought, how can they have original sin? They've just been born there, and not had a chance to do anything. They've been killed before they've actually lived in any life. Anyway, I became agnostic. That is, I became unsure about it. And but your mum was very sure of hers. So when we met up, because she'd had her mum was Roman Catholic, her father was Church of England, and but she really liked her aunt, who was a Salvationist, and she liked the Low Church type thing. And we went to the church at the bottom of Eddie and Viv's Road, Noyle Road, that big one just on the corner in the main road. And we went there, and that's where we became members. Well, we were members of the church. We just went to that church, and we got married in a little church in the St. Michael's, which was adjacent to in the park. That's where we were married. And when we come over here, we went to North Bearsted first, and that was a terrible place. We went there a couple of times and said, "Oh no, that's awful." then we came to St Mary's and we came here, and we were more inspired by going to we went for a time to St Nicholas at Middleton. And each time I would say to the priest, well, I have some reserves about it, I'm really a bit agnostic. And they said, oh, it'll come to you in due course. And I thought, yeah, okay. So it all seemed nice because you're part of a family, you see, and
yes,
I was acquainted with it and all the rest. And we became members of the Church of England. Your mum and I went to Eastbourne with the Reverend Illing and were brought into the Church of England. But I've continued to have doubts all the way through. And I always think that the church, the Old Testament is a minefield and shouldn't, it should be sealed with a seal that says danger, not to be read by ordinary people, because it really is impossible, and you find that you're worshipping a God who will, somebody can be stoned to death, that woman who's unfaithful, and all sorts of things like that. And you think, hang on, I thought this was a nice fellow. That was Jesus. Yeah, but Jesus is the Son of God. And, the whole family, one's giving one mission, and the other. Anyway, I kept having, unfortunately, I was welcomed into the church first as a treasurer. I did the treasurer for St Mary's, and then we brought St Nicholas into it. Then I became the deanery treasurer, doing the area Arundel and all the rest of it. And then I became church warden on 3 occasions. And that was the business side of it, right? So I was okay with that, and I was the first secretary for the new hall. And I didn't mind doing that. And I also did the magazine for 10 years. But I had these niggling thoughts all the time. And it was only after your mum died that I had time to sit and think, because, I had time just to relax and think about it. And I started that was 1915, I thought it was 2015. And I went on a pilgrimage as part of this investigation of mine, which I thought was just going to be sort of strengthening my faith, I'll find out. But the trouble was, it went the other way. It kept bringing up more anomalies to me, what it says and what actually happens in real life. And, answers like, if it doesn't work out, they say, oh, yeah, well, God works in a mysterious way. So I really went back to basics, and I thought, what's all about all these other faiths then? They're not really, you can't really believe that they're all damned, it's what they believe. So where their gods, are they the same God or a different God? I think, well, if you go back to the Aztecs and people like that, these were sun gods and things like that, and they were sacrificing children, and things. I think people have always, it's been something inside humans that they want someone outside to protect them from the things that they don't understand, the diseases and the natural, storms and everything else, and no amount of crossing yourself and it seems to do any good, and I think, well, hang on. What it is, it's very nice and comfortable, but really it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't actually add up. And we can be good citizens of the world and be humanists, and that is, caring for people less fortunate yourself, and living a good life and trying to put something into life. I got involved in the Samaritans and doing things like that because I thought I'd been so fortunate to have you lot, mum, and a good home and good health, and everyone, has been so good that I thought I had to give something back. I did, but I think now I just have to sit back because I don't think I've got the vitality. I can't keep going for long, but if I could say to any of the grandchildren or anything like that, think about it seriously. If you're thinking what you want to do in life, think about it and the pros and cons of it, what you'd have to give up in order to do it. And obviously you get something from putting the effort in as well. I did night school for 5 years, 2 nights a week and working at the weekends, and it paid off. I wasn't just lucky, I was fortunate too. I made the right decision in certain places to get the right job and everything like that. But you've got to put the effort in. Amy Reddie, I really feel that she's got so much up and go, and I admire her so much. That and everybody's not like that. But when you do decide what you want to do it so that you become using your skills and the best things that you're really good at to do whatever it is you do. So that at the end of the day, you don't come home and think, oh hell, I've got to go back to tomorrow. When it gets to that day, you should pack it in and find another job, because you should enjoy working, making a contribution in a team, or in a factory, or in an office, or wherever you are. Social services, whatever. I think to be a doctor, or a nurse, or something like that is really, really, really very, very good. And in the care sector, it's very good, extremely good. So money, I don't think money, having enough money is good. Not having enough money is hell. It causes arguments and everything like that. When there's not enough, then it gets pretty hard deciding. Your mum didn't do it with me, but when we were hard, I was smoking and she didn't complain, but she should have been a bit harder, and I should have responded by stopping earlier. But I'd grown up with tobacco. I smoked. Yes. And my father smoked, and my grandfather smoked, and that. But my father's life was certainly shortened by smoking. Your grandfather.
Well, he only lived to my age.
63.
Oh, 63. Okay. Well, it's almost a contemporary.
He died in 19. He was born in 1900, and he died in 1963. So just and the snow was in the ground.
Yeah.
And that's what caused it. It was just too much for his heart. But that was brought on by smoking, actually. But he was.
Well, I don't suppose you expected to get.
Pardon?
I don't suppose you expected to get to 91, soon to be 92. If you lost your father at 63.
Yeah, but it's a funny thing. I've always, when I went to sea, I only was thinking of going to sea and becoming an officer. And when I passed through the exams and became a second mate, that's the first certificate you get, form going, oh, I thought that was great. So I thought, perhaps I'll go for the next one, chief officer or first mate. So I started immediately studying for, I got all the books and started studying for that. And in 2 years, I went back and did that. And then 2.5 to 3 years later, I did the Masters, which when I went to see it first, I never thought I'd get to Master. And when I joined Hagel Products as production controller, I wasn't thinking of being managing director, although the managing director thought I had plans that way when he interviewed me. I didn't realize that. But actually, I was just going to do the job that I was hired to do. And I did that and got into it, and then got on from there. And so people recognized what I got and promote. I didn't have to press them. They did it. I don't think I ever asked for an increase ever. I always got them. And I think it's it was due to, the having your mum look after things at home and things like that. Of course, she backed everything up. You see, she did everything. So it made it easier for me, obviously. But we had a good life together, and we had lovely times together, didn't we? The holidays and things like that we had were really good. Yeah, and
Well, not just holidays. We used to have days out. I remember we used to go picnics up in the Downs and went to Longley.
Your mum would think about these. She would think them, plan them all, and get all the food ready and everything like that. It was all made it all easy. I just sort of tagged along. Yeah, had it all done for me. I didn't realize, at the time, I was just so full of myself and my job. And I came in tired at night, yeah, I think that the other thing I think about is that I went to America, and in America, they were always asking us, wouldn't you like to come out and come to live with us, people in America. And I didn't want to live in America because I saw the inequality in it. They could talk about a great nation, a democratic nation. It's a myth, They had no healthcare system. They had nothing, They didn't care about black people and things like that. It was white supremacists. That's all. And they're still there, unfortunately. It's bad. But yeah, this is something. Of course, we never had an epidemic like this. I had, there was diphtheria, measles, German measles, chicken pox. There are all these things that we had which killed people and so on. But gradually, they've got most of them under control. And if we're fortunate enough, and we certainly seem to have some brilliant scientists, because they pulled the hat out the rabbit out of the hatch with this COVID vaccine, which they've done in a year, which is just unbelievable that they're able to do. And now you're able to get some to Ghana. See, that's lovely. That's great.
And would you say you're fitter now than you were 10 years ago? Do you think?
No.
Because you get out on your bike a lot.
Yeah, but I'm not fitter. I mean, the things that my knees don't bend as far, and just getting onto the bike is your movement just gradually gets less and less. And 2 or 3 years ago, I could skip. I can't get myself off the ground now.
Oh, well, there aren't many 90-year-olds that want to skip.
Yeah, but it would be better if I had lost a little bit of weight. That would help, probably.
But everyone puts weight on in the winter. Once the spring's here now, you can get out. How far are you cycling at a time when you go out?
10 miles. 10. We're limited to 10 to 12 miles during the COVID thing. Except, I think it's the 29th of March, we'll be able to get out on the Wednesday group, and we do about 30 to 40 miles on a Wednesday. But we've still got to be in groups of 6, so we have to agree how to set up so we keep separate and so on. But we're doing about 100 miles a week before COVID.
Wow. Well, there aren't many 91-year-olds that are cycling 100 miles a week.
No, but you don't use the same muscles for walking. My walking is quite restricted now. I mean, I can walk down to the seafront, but then I'd have to take a little rest down there, a sit down or something, and then walk back. But that's as far as I could go, I think. It's getting less, but then I should expect that. I think I can't keep young forever. But my eyesight test was the same as it was last year, so it's not deteriorating. I don't have to have
Tricks
you
removed.
know,
Yeah.
going to hospital or anything. Yeah, and I don't take any medication of any type at all.
Apart from a wee dram.
Well, a wee dram, actually, what I did for a month, I stayed off alcohol completely.
Oh.
Just to try it,
Yes.
alcohol to me is something that I can take or leave. I don't have a sort of, oh, I'll have to keep going like that. It's, yeah, when you're older, you can just take it's nice with a meal. I do like a wine with meal.
Red or white?
Well, with beef, it would be red, and with fish, it would be white. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I've got you gave me a bottle of Glenfiddich, 12 years. And I'm going at it so slowly, I let Adrian have some of it because, I'm down, I've got about that left now. I gave him about this because he likes a little dram now and again. And he gets really quite tired. Wearing a mask and working all day, it really adds to the pressure on him, especially when he does the night shift. It's pretty tiring. Yeah. But as he says, he's lucky. He says, I'm lucky. I've got a job, and Jane's got a job. There's not many families that have still remained got a job, and it's Rolls Royce is high paid. So
yes, all your children are healthy and work. Well, I say they're all working. 3 of them are working.
Yeah, it's very, very good, and we're very, very fortunate as a family, aren't we? Perhaps our genes got something to do with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the attitude as well, being optimistic.
Exactly. I think that's what you've got to be. Don't let the buggers grind you down. Stay at dig down and say, okay, where we go from here. We've had it before. I think perhaps something that changes you is to the war. In the war, we got used to, bombing was always at night, and we'd typically, when we got up, my mother would have all her clothes ready for Betty and I, with a gas mask and everything. And when the siren went off, we just got up and quickly. It took us minutes to get dressed and down. We were prepared, ready just to drop into everything and get down there. And my dad would be running up the road to the ARP post, and we'd be often the shrapnel would run down to the shelter. We'd an Anderson shelter, and you could be in there for hours, and it was quite cold. You just had a earthenware garden pot with a candle in it and another smaller one on the top, and that's what you usually had, the light as well as the heat from that. But you were just wrapped up, in Harris tweeds and everything like that, a bit cold, and you're just stuck down there with a vacuum flask or something like that. And that went on for years, and we had rationing, of course. It didn't have the sweets that kids have now, but that was good because everyone had a good. If you look at the bodies of people after the war, you didn't see many fat people. I mean, we've got an obesity problem now. You just go and have a look at the roundabout at the burger place there. It's always full. It's always full. There's always people queuing up to feed themselves on stuff like that. And they're getting bigger and bigger, and they don't seem to understand what they're doing to their body. They just keep on. The rubbish food that's going around just now is terrible, son. And they're eating so much of it. It's ridiculous. It's. You think, have we got to bring in penalties that we won't touch you unless you're, of a requisite weight
Yeah.
ratio, you know, because you're too, you know, we can't do anything with you. You're killing yourself.
Have you got any advice for your descendants?
Yeah, as I said, try and find a job or something that you want to do in life. And once you've set on it, if you make mistakes, put them behind you and don't, you know, take account of it, obviously, so that you don't make the same mistake twice. But don't keep on lashing yourself about it. Forget about it, put it to the back and go on with the future, because, you know, time is just being wasted thinking about what went wrong and keep on going on that. And people ruin their life by looking backwards. You should always look forward, you know, but what we're going to do ahead. And, you know, not that, oh, are we going to survive?
Yeah.
You know, you just make plans for going, you know, do the best you can. And the other thing is, don't waste time getting the best solution. Get the first good solution is probably best to get on with, because you can go on trying to refine a plan to get the best. And you know, it takes time. By the time everyone knows about that, if you're thinking about going into a business or doing something, you know, if you've got a good idea, go ahead, work it, give it at least a try. You know, it's worth a try. Worst thing is to die thinking, oh, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that. And, you know, so what? You know, forget it, get behind you. I had to do it when I left the sea, you know, because no one wanted my qualifications other than as a harbour master or assistant harbour master or something, you know, in a log. So it wasn't any use to anyone. So I had to start at the bottom again, which meant that I had to take a certain salary cut of 50%. Sorry, it was on about 1,000 a year, and I went down to 500 as a trainee manager. And I think that you've got to just put that behind you. You know, it's okay. It's good income. You know, we've had a good experiences, and you can learn from it. But go on with today and go on with the future. Keep looking ahead, and don't put off doing things. You know, especially with family and that. Go out, go abroad, do that holiday. I got into debt once, and that was when I took you all to Torremolinos with the two grandmas. And I did that, and it took me to October or something to pay that off, you know, on my credit card.
Yes.
But I don't regret it. I think it was a wonderful thing to do. I wish I'd done it before to my mother. I'd taken her with us and just thought about it and think, God, she would have loved that. When we thought we'd go to Torremolinos, we were really worried. We thought, oh, they probably won't like the Spanish food, and they probably won't like this and that. They loved it. They ate everything. They drank everything. They went everything. They were as happy as could be, weren't they?
They were.
And they were in their 80s then. And really, we did that because her mother had what hadn't been well, and I said to Val once we were talking about it, I said, well, I don't think she'll last long. So would you and her like to go to Rome, because she was at RC, and do a long weekend in Rome in December? So I'd checked at Cook's. And then by the time we spoke to her and she said, oh, yes, she would like to go, that's her mother, it sold out.
Oh, right.
And I went down the Friday and they had none. And I went to the next bit, up and down Baltimore, but there were none to Rome. And I thought, oh dear, now I've got to tell her. I've raised her hopes, now I've got to tell her. Yeah. So I said, what about we all go to Spain in May or June? And she said, yeah, that would be lovely. So I said, well, I'll get my mother as well and she can come. So, you know, I think that was really nice. These are things that, yeah, if you want to go ahead and do these things, you know, because you know your mum had her mum with her, and she died in what was Fiona's bedroom.
Yes.
For cancer, yes. But she nearly broke your mum's back, you know, because she was quite a weight, you know, getting her to
Yeah.
the toilet and back and things like that. It's, yeah. So what can I say? I can just say I've had a lovely life. I love all the family very much. And yeah, you live, yeah, one day at a time, son. You don't want to plan too far ahead, but it's a reasonable thing to do, to plan ahead, get things right.